I'm Thomas, and you're listening to the Gracing Podcast. But are you?
I was just reading on the airplane coming home today a Substack that is, I think, well known in the gravel world, and I am going to forget what it's called now. But he was like, what are the 5 gravel monuments of 2025?
That's an interesting argument to have. What are the 5 monuments?
I hate this argument. Can you tell me what we're reading here? Like, anybody can write a Substack. I'm trying to get to the fact that, like, 10 years ago, anybody with a digital camera was like, well, I'm in cycling media. And this person's like, I have a Substack, so I will tell the world what the gravel monuments are. Give me a break.
Give me a break.
The name of the Substack is called The Gravel Stack.
The Gravel Stack, okay.
We live in a very nerdy gravel bubble.
You just listened to a brief snippet that I cut together from the latest episode of the Gravel Kings podcast. You may or may not know it. It's Ted King, his wife Laura King, and Stu Streeter, a fellow gravel normie. They talk about gravel racing, and topics adjacent to it on their podcast. And while I was at lunch today, and I was thinking nothing but I was having lunch alone, actually, and listened to a podcast, as I sometimes do. And suddenly, Laura and Stu start talking about my Monuments of Gravel list. And I think, oh, nice, lovely. They talk about this, cool. Didn't know they were reading my stuff on Substack. And then, as you heard, Ted comes in and he totally thrashes the list. I mean, he did it in a nice way. It was I was laughing so hard. I think the guys in the store must have thought that I'm a crazy person, because this entertained me. And yeah, I just wanted to share this little story, this little snippet on here. The gravel bubble is tiny, and as I have in there, Ted says it correctly, it's a nerdy little gravel bubble we are in, and that is one of the adventures you can have in there. And with that, let's jump straight into my interview, where I'm very pleased that I had Geerike G. Schreurs on to talk about Core4 Gravel Worlds, that is Lincoln, Nebraska Gravel Worlds, also some UCI Gravel Worlds talk, very brief at the end, and then some. I think it was a really cool conversation. Let's jump into it. Great to have you on.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
So I invited you initially to talk about Core4, which is also going to be the main topic of today, but we are meeting you already in Lincoln, or close to Lincoln, Nebraska, I suppose.
Yes, I'm at the moment in Lincoln. I'm kind of in some neighborhood here in Lincoln, 10 minutes away from the start, since Tuesday afternoon.
So I suppose that many of our listeners will be familiar with you, but some probably not. And I think one story that probably illustrates what type of a person and rider you are is a story that we actually covered and talked about a lot here on the podcast and in the newsletter, namely your ride this year at the Traka, where you had a crash, and as it turned out later, you fractured your elbow, and then you continued the race for well more than 100 kilometers, maybe even 150. Do you remember how far you did ride with this elbow?
Yeah, I did another 135 kilometers with it. Yeah.
So that is heroic. That is a crazy story. And I'm wondering, because we never talked since then, I have to ask you now, what was like going through your head at that moment? So I never fractured my elbow, luckily, only my collarbone. How painful is it on a scale from 1 to 10?
Well, was also my first time. When you crash on the bike, it's always the first seconds you don't feel much, and then suddenly it really hits you. But then also sometimes it can ease again. So I was thinking after I crashed, like, it was maybe more my leg first, of my hip, I remember. And then I was thinking, okay, give it a bit of time and then continue. It's going to be fine. There's still so long before the finish line. You can come back. So before I knew, I was back on the bike and I started riding. And then I felt actually straight away my arm. but I couldn't really figure it out if it was my elbow or it was my wrist or it was my underarm, or it was like just not feeling good. And in the beginning it was okay, and I thought, okay, just give it a bit of time. And how farther I got in the race, how more pain I actually got. And I started not to be able to hold my handlebar well anymore. I couldn't do anything, but I still wasn't sure what it was. And my hands started to swell up really big, and I was like, maybe I fractured my wrist, I had no idea, basically.
Yeah.
But it was really painful, yes.
And you still pushed through. And then from like the comments that, or the reports that came out later, it sounded like the decision that you then made to get out of the race was not necessarily driven mainly by the pain, but more because you couldn't hold onto the handlebars anymore. And it was more like precaution almost. And you would have liked to continue to push on some level at least.
Yes. Yeah. So at one point before we hit the big climb, we got to the aid station, and I asked already to the motorbike, I said, can you make sure there's a medical to at least like maybe examine a little bit like what's going on. So they wrapped it up, and he already said like, I think it's a fracture in the elbow. I was like, oh, well, I will try to keep going, and maybe it helps. Now it's with having some tape around it. But I know the course really well, and I know that downhill really well as well. And normally that would have been my strength, and I was super excited for that because I was like, that's somewhere where I can drop maybe my contenders. And but I also knew it was a kind of a sketchy one, especially because of the water. There was quite some ruts and everything, and I knew like it's an important one to hold your handlebar really well. And I was like, this is just too dangerous. If I get back to the others and I cannot hold my handlebar, I cannot brake, and I crash again, it will be even worse. And I don't want to bring anyone in danger either. And I felt like it's just not safe. I think if that downhill wasn't in there, I would have continued, because I thought I can be. It's really painful, but I can finish with it, I guess. But it was more like safety, I guess, that I thought like this is not good, and yeah, it's better to call it a day.
Yeah, but still, I mean, like going 135 kilometers for a normie rider like myself I can't imagine doing this. And yeah, it speaks just to the toughness that you need to have to be at the pointy end of these races. And so another cool story about you, which probably many listeners are familiar with, so we don't need to repeat it, but is your way from having worked and been a soigneur, so taking care of riders in professional riding, to now being yourself a top pro in gravel. And you do it for SD Worx-Protime, which of course many listeners who also follow road racing know as a WorldTour pro road team. So, and then in preparing for this, I checked and I saw that this season you did 2 road races only, and otherwise you focus completely on gravel. And I was wondering, is that like also a result of this injury, or was it really planned that you only do that little road racing and can otherwise focus on gravel almost entirely?
Yeah, that was initially the deal we made the beginning of the year, that I would be focused on gravel only. But then in the beginning of the year, there was quite a gap between Santaval and the next race on the gravel. So I asked the team, like, if there's an opening or you need a rider, can I maybe do 1 or 2 races on the road? So they added me on this Belgium Classics, which was really nice. It was a really nice experience, especially, like you said, I used to be a soigneur, so I saw old colleagues again and people I used to work with. But also I raced with riders I'm actually looked after. So it was for me, like, I had 0 pressure. I just wanted to do well for the team. And the second race, the Nokere course, we actually won with Marta, and I was really happy to be part of that as well. There's another race I could do later in the season, but it's too close for the Earth final, so I think I skipped that one. So there's a possibility, but in general, it was always used to be that I would only focus on the gravel.
And is your setup a bit like the Lachlan Morton setup, let's call it, where you're riding in the kit and they support you as a team, but you're not taking away one of the official World Tour spots? Or are you also on the World Tour team like Rosa Klöser, I suppose, is at Canyon?
Yeah, I am officially on the World Tour roster with the team.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm basically racing in their clothing. I have the same sponsors as them. I join them in the training camps. I get all the nutrition or whatever I need. So I'm basically part of the World Tour team. Yeah.
I mean, that's super interesting that they apparently allow it, like at least on the women's side, to riders to, on the one hand side, be properly on the team, but then it speaks to the importance that gravel maybe has for sponsors these days, that is being done by the teams, and really cool.
Yeah, it is Specialized actually asked already in the past a couple of times if some of the SD Worx riders want to do gravel. So when I got on the team last year, it was more because Danny Stam reached it out to Specialized and said like, hey, I know you ask us quite a lot if we can have someone doing gravel, but what if we actually add an extra rider who can basically focus on the gravel? So we have someone in all the gravel races, which are important ones. So that's actually initially how it started. But last year it was still a bit like I had more deal with Specialized, but was racing. I think it's like probably like Lachlan Morton had. You race in the kit, but you're not officially part of it. And this year I'm officially on the roster from SD Worx-Protime.
And like in this current stretch of the season, how much contact do you have with the teammates? Like, if I remember correctly, I saw you early in the season on like a training camp with the team. How is it in that period of the season?
Yeah, it is not so much. I don't see. I mean, like I did a race in Roden, so I saw two other teammates. So we chatted a little bit. But I'm in the WhatsApp group. So yeah, I can always see when, of course, when someone wins, everyone is saying something, or when there's important messages to share, then I'm part of that. But no, I don't see many of them, especially not with me in the US now. Sometimes I actually miss it. It can be quite hard, not feeling you're kind of part of it, but also really not so much. But I'm always good in doing my own thing, so it doesn't bother me too much.
Like the other girls and women on the team, do they sometimes mention to you that they'd also sometimes like do one of these gravel races, or is there little
Yeah. No, they do. I mean, like Femke Marcus really likes the gravel, and she has done some this year. Also, I get sometimes questions from some of the riders, like Elena was messaging me the other day, like, hey, which pedals do you normally use? And thinking about to do in the Europeans, and, like little questions about gravel, for example. And then for sure, I will see them in the World Championships in the Netherlands. But yeah, other than that, it's they do their thing and I do my thing. But I also know the road season is long and it's busy, so that's not also so much time for them to do extra racing.
Yeah, obviously. So let's move to your current stint in the US. And obviously, it's always a big journey, big travel to get there from Europe with the bike, with all the setup that you need. How did your traveling go? Did everything arrive well, like the bikes and so on? Any complications?
Well, surprisingly, yes. Because when I traveled home from Unbound, my flight got delayed in Chicago, I think, and then it got even cancelled, and then I had to wait another day and I had to stay there, and like there's always something. Last year, my bike in Iceland didn't show up. This year it did. And then my travel was from Iceland to Denver, which is a direct flight. So after the Rift, I went already to America, which was great. But I shipped actually my mountain bike already in the beginning of July from Spain to the US to Specialized in Denver to get a fit, because I did the Leadville mountain bike race. But that never showed up it actually never left Barcelona. It's been in customs for like the longest time, and eventually they shipped it back to my apartment. So I was like, okay, great. So luckily Specialized sorted something out here. So I had at least an Epic A to race on and train on for Latviel. But yeah,
That's
other
like when
than
you
that,
try to do, when you try to organize everything early and do it perfectly, like ship it from at home, then it doesn't arrive. That is like,
there's always something, and I feel so bad about it. It looks like it's always me, but I really did my best to get everything organized. And sometimes these things you don't have to control. But no, this time all my luggage arrived on time. Yeah.
Cool. Glad to hear that. So actually, Latviel, when I saw this, I was a bit surprised that you do it, because obviously you're not in the Grand Prix. And I also, I mean, you have like originally, if I remember all the details correctly, you used to do a lot of road riding, and I never had you in the mountain bike category. And then was it like your first proper mountain bike race?
I actually have zero mountain bike experience, and it was my first mountain bike event. Yes, and the longest training ride I did was one time 4 hours, and this was nearly 8 hours. So it was an experience, but that's where I came for, and I'm really glad that I did it, and I wanted to experience it, and Specialized allowed me to do it, so that was really cool, and it gave me another 3 weeks on altitude. But I can tell you, like, I mean, I grew up, born and raised in below sea level. So to go then do everything above 3,000 meters is like a really shock to the body. And I did another altitude camp before in June. So I was kind of a little bit adjusted to it. And then I was already 3 weeks on altitude before the race. But it did hit me really hard. It was really, really tough. But it was a really cool experience, and I wanted to have that feeling, and I wanted to do something out of my comfort zone, and there was something this year, and it was definitely a big thing. Yeah.
How was descending Columbine for you?
Well, I did it on Friday with Sophia Gomez, and I mean, she's mountain bike background and everything, and it was good to follow her. It was not easy. I'm not so scared in downhills, but I definitely noticed that my skills on the mountain bike are not so good as I do on gravel. It's a completely different bike feeling and different descending. So I just went and tried to stay up, and I didn't crash, so that was most important thing.
Yeah. So, and then I suppose you went to Iowa relatively briefly after this. How far is this actually? Because in the US, like for Europeans, it's like traveling multiple countries, these distances in the US. Like,
I know. Yeah, I was supposed to go by car, and I think by car it would have been like maybe, I don't know, 14 hours or 12 to 14 hours. But in the end, I flew the next day on Sunday morning. I flew to Cedar Rapids, a small airport in Iowa. Got picked up there by my boyfriend, and then we stayed a whole week in Iowa. So I never been there, and people were like laughing when I said like, "Oh, we're going to Iowa," and they're like, "Oh, you're going to all the weird places in the US," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, well, I will see how it is." Like, I'm super open-minded in these kind of things, and I actually had a really good time. It was Iowa City is super nice. Oh yeah, but actually all the locals said, "Don't tell about Iowa City. Don't tell how nice it is, and don't tell anything because we want to keep it quiet like it is." I'm like, "Oh, okay." But anyways, It is actually really nice. If you pass by whatever on a road trip, it's really nice to make a stop there.
You're not the first to tell. I guess you met Holy Spirit of Gravel there because she was announcing the women's race, and on her podcast she also told like how especially like the local riding community must be super cool, and there must be going on a lot for riders from that area as well. So she was also super stoked coming from Texas herself.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And that was also, like the cars were really respecting you, and people were just enthusiastic about it. And the Airbnb I stayed in was like on a little organic farm, and these people, they never heard about the bike race, but they got really into it, and they were looking me up, and they were reading about it, and they ask all these questions. So it's actually really nice that they were so open-minded to it as well.
So when you arrive there in Iowa, of course, you start reconning the course at some point. And what I'm curious about is like, that is, I suppose, a completely new course, completely new landscape for you. How do you approach reconning such a course? Are there like details that you tend to focus and pay close attention to? Are there like, do you visualize stuff that could unfold in the race in certain sections? How does like reconning such a course work for you?
Well, because I was there quite early, I had actually time to recon some part of it. And then, for example, on Tuesday, I think I had 2 hours, and then I tried to do at least some of it to see a little bit. And then I decided to do the single track part because I thought like, well, that could be interesting to at least see, or I have a feeling like how it's going to be. And we got there, and the night before was a big storm. So the trails were actually so wet. It almost felt like you were riding in a jungle. And it was so humid and everything, and I did not enjoy it. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be so hard, and what I'm doing here. And, I just came from Latvia, and you're still a bit tired. And so you start really to doubt, and you're like, oh. But then luckily I met some locals, and they said, don't worry, if it warms, if it's going to be warm, it will dry up. It's going to be way better. It's going to be fine. And I'm like, okay, that's good. The good thing with me is that once I see something, I most of the time remember it pretty well. So when I do course recon, I just, I don't know. I think not without even thinking about it. I just save certain things in my head. So when in race day, I get there, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. And then, that for sure helps. And then I normally write down certain points where I think like this is a point where you need to be upfront, or this can be a point of the race where maybe it breaks, or someone will do an attack, or maybe I can do an attack, or these kind of things. So on Wednesday, I did a big recon, like 90K of the course, which was great to see lots of it. And then just going on your computer actually, and using Google Maps, or using whatever program, GPX, like Strava, or Ride with GPS. And then sometimes you can just do some Earth view or whatever. So it's a bit like that. Yeah. But there's also so much you can do. I mean, it is really important. It's nice to know for yourself if you know the course pretty well, especially especially because with the mud sections, for example, I knew like, okay, there's a chance that it's muddy there, and definitely it was in Core4. But then at least it's coming. Then being surprised, like, oh shit, I didn't see this coming. Now I know it was coming. Yeah.
Yeah, like these B roads. We will get to these B roads. So probably a good occasion to give our listeners a little overview of the course. So you already mentioned that there was at least initially supposed to be some single track, and that we will later get to. It was then scratched from the course, but when you pre-rode, that was still the case. Then a lot of B roads. What were the other like marquee features? Were there some climbs that were probably like useful to create separation, anything like that?
There were not so much climbs. It was more like rolling roads. So we started, and then after like 6K or something, we started already on a grass section, which was like a little bit going fast flat up, maybe a little climb. But it was hard because the underground was really hard to ride on. So for example, you could already put the speed quite high up there. And I think that already broke up the whole group. So it got smaller and smaller. And then the thing is, because the rolling roads, there's like kind of steep climbs, but because you come with quite a lot of speed, they're really short. So it's just like a little kicker you need to get over. So there were not really, in my opinion, big climbs, especially not coming from Leadville. It felt like there was heaven for me. Nice flat,
I can imagine.
Not too much climbing. But yeah. And then in the end, it were the B roads what basically broke up the whole group eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, because as it turns out, like when I was following the coverage of the race or the day before on their Instagram, some people started posting, oh, look, there are clouds coming and a thunderstorm coming in. And then the evening before it started like raining and it looked really bad. The storm came up and it got super wet.
Yeah, so it was massive because I think I was also checking the weather and it was like I did not see it appearing really on my weather app. But then I looked on one of the others and then I was like, oh man, there's a really big storm coming. So I was actually at the venue to just socialize a little bit, pick up my number and everything. But then I saw that dark cloud coming and before we knew, like the wind, it started to blow everything away, like tents and these kind of things. And I'm like, I need to get out of here. I want to get home. And
did you hear any stories of? Did you hear any stories of people who got caught by it, like riding or doing something?
I think there must be because when I was driving back to my Airbnb, we did kind of a part of the start-finish kind of course, and there were some people riding towards the venue, and I'm like, oh man, I hope you were not on that social ride, and I hope you can push a little harder because you're gonna get so wet if you. And also, it's almost got a little bit dangerous, I think, with like the thunder and everything, and the wind was so hard. And then some of the locals said, oh yeah, sometimes there's just like this hurricane coming or whatever. This often not, how you call that, the hurricane, you know what I mean. Anyways, they said like, yeah, no, we never know. It's just like, it may be a little one. And I'm like, well, I want to be in my house now. And let's see how long the rain lasts. And then already someone said like, if it lasts more than 20 minutes, the roads will be really, really bad. And I don't think it will be dry before the race starts. So then it was a bit like, okay, when are we going to find out if they change the course, yes or no? And that was not until the next morning when I woke up and I saw the email like, okay, this is the new course. We took out all the single tracks. So I did a little bit of adjustment on my stamp sheets and things like that, or because everything changed a little bit. But I think it's good they did it, especially with the amount of people, and you don't want to destroy the whole single track fields either. With having 1,000 people going over there, for example.
Like besides nutrition and the obvious, did it affect your race strategy in any way, shape, or form?
No, not really, because it was in the end only 10 kilometers what they took out. So the feed, there was one feed we couldn't make it. So instead of 5, we had 4. And to have someone in the feed stations. And other than that, it didn't change so much. Yeah, you had to change the kilometers a little bit because some B roads came a little earlier than in the original route. So yeah. But yeah, I think it's good they did it. But
so then, when you get to the line, I guess you're pretty well prepared for what to expect. What was your mindset going into it? Because I assume it's not like a race on your calendar, but still you want to do well. Did you go like let's see how it goes, or did you have a more specific plan?
Yeah, I think as an athlete, you always want to do well, and you always start on the line to go for the win, I guess, or at least like a certain top 10 finish kind of idea. Personally, I was like, I just need a race where I have mostly fun again, and the fun of racing, like with attacking and with closing gaps, or like trying something, or these kind of things. So I was not really thinking so much about the outcome. I was not so worried. I was not really thinking like, oh, I need to have a certain place. I just saw it as a nice fast race, like rolling roads. That's normally what I enjoy. Maybe I can do an attack here and then, just see how the others are feeling, like playing a little bit, like more just the fun of racing, like not thinking too much about it, because I think I needed it, especially after Leadville, which was a really good experience, but definitely not my type of race. And I also was thinking, well, Gravel Worlds will be much longer, so it could be a good training for the next one.
So these B roads, if people watched the footage, they will have seen it. It turned out to be quite decisive and quite a mayhem, you could say. People, like, some crashed in the mud. It was the type of peanut buttery mud we know. But I would actually like a mud comparison from you, because like myself, you also earlier in the year rode the hills. And
oh yeah.
And the hills was a insane mud fest. And I ask you, which of the two was like the worst mud fest, and how different are these two types of muds?
Okay, well, the hills was like mud from start till finish, and covered us fully in mud, like was so extreme, and you were slipping everywhere, and that was really, really tough.
Which, by the way, if I remember correctly, you finished in third, right?
Yes, I did. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I still don't know how, but I somehow survived that day, because I was completely dying. I was questioning myself why I'm being an athlete and not do something else.
I'm not an athlete, and I questioned myself as well. So
yeah, well, I was more. Yes, exactly. And there's always someone else is maybe suffering more. I have no idea, but that was a really hard one. The thing is that your bike keeps going. And this in Iowa, I actually never, I experienced once in Texas last year in a training ride, that it suddenly started to rain and the road started to be this peanut butter mud. But your bike basically just stops. You can just not pedal anymore, because your wheels, they don't turn anymore because of all the mud what's stuck underneath, like your fork and your bottom bracket and these kind of things. So, but the thing is, then you just scrape it off and trying to clean it a little bit or whatever, and put your bike on your shoulder and just walk it. And then hopefully by the time, like you can ride again. Basically, then after in the first meters, it's just mud flying everywhere because it gets off your bike. And then once you can keep going, at least it doesn't affect so much on your like whole body, so you're not completely covered in mud and you don't eat like a kilo of mud. So I think I rather have Iowa than the hills. Yeah,
it's what I figured. I mean, it this type of mud is rarer here. I know it from some riding around here in Germany as well. So there is this type of mud that sticks. I don't know if it is comparable, like the famous, I mean, most people heard of peanut butter mud from Unbound. I suppose it's similar in Iowa. But interesting that once you get into gravel racing, you also learn about the intricacies of different types of mud out there, because it suddenly becomes important.
It's very important, yeah.
Did you hear, like, I mean, the nasty thing and the stories that you often hear after Unbound, especially for amateurs like myself, is some equipment like derailleurs getting ripped off and stuff. Did you hear these kind of stories in Iowa as well? Or were people more prepared and careful, have enough mud clearance?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually have no idea. I didn't hear any of these stories. But yeah, your material is definitely going through a hard time, maybe even harder than yourself. But so I sometimes feel really bad for the amateurs, because I mean, we know how expensive it is, and it's like it can destroy your whole bike. The problem is I also had like some kind of grass in my jog wheel going, and that's why it didn't roll so nice anymore. And every time I was like, after mid section, I was trying to get it out, but I couldn't, because it was like just all And that was not a fault of like the SRAM or anything. It was just like there was grass and mud and everything, and it was all dried up, and it was just one big
I don't know if it was
lump, and I couldn't get it out. So I was like, okay, this is I need to accept.
Somebody posted something like this. I don't know if it was you or maybe Morgan, Geerike. Somebody posted something similar to this.
Yeah, I think. That's exactly.
So the one equipment question that I was wondering about, and this became quite evident in like the finale of the race when you were more or less head to head with Rosa Klöser, which you can also tell the story if you want how you ended up there. But you didn't have any aero bars on your bike, and I could imagine that there was a point in the day where you missed them. Or am I wrong?
Yeah, for sure. But they should just ban them everywhere. Like, okay. I think it's like, I mean, then go to triathlon or something where you can ride with your aero bars or whatever. So I'm super happy they're not here this weekend. Although if it was allowed here, I for sure would have put some aero bars on my bike myself. But yeah, it is already hard for me anyways with my 186 to sit in wheels of some of these little cyclists to stay out of the wind. And then Rosa was with her aero bar, and fair enough. I mean, like, it was no rule, so she can do whatever she wants. But there were some points that I thought like, oh yeah, that would actually be really nice to have that as well. But I didn't, so it was what it is. And yeah, try to stay a bit more aero in the drops, or yeah.
So the story for the two of you being head-to-head essentially was also written in one of these B roads, and we luckily did get pretty good footage from it. So you are, I believe, at least the only woman in the lead group that rode nicely through this B road. And then you had a gap.
Yeah, I still don't know how I got through it and the others not. Because Sarah was saying like, yeah, but I took the same line as you. And I'm like, yeah, sorry, I have no idea. Maybe it's because my bike is so big, so I have way more clearance than when you have a really small bike. I have no idea. But anyways, I got through it. And then I had a gap, and I had no idea how big the gap was. And
did you realize it right away that you had this gap?
No, because I wasn't looking back. Because I was like, I need to focus. I need to get through this section. Yeah. But then when I got through, then I looked back, and then I saw like, oh, they are actually walking. And then I was like, oh, that's a good situation for me. So yeah, I obviously kept going. And then at one point, but then I saw that Rosa was the first one coming after that mud section. So I thought like, okay, she will get in her TT position, and for sure we'll try to bring it back. Fair enough. But then I was kind of in a little flow, because it went on the asphalt kind of down, and I love like that kind of stuff. Obviously, because I'm so tall and everything, and weigh a bit more than all the others, so I have a bit more speed. That I was so focused on like going straight that I missed the turn to the right. So I was like, oh, damn it, I passed it. So then I had to turn around and come back. And then I saw in distance Rosa coming. And so I turned around and then got into this where I had to turn right. So I had to turn left. And then again, there was directly mud. So I had no speed and I had no nothing. Mm-hmm. And actually turned out in straight away, like kind of walking section again. So then Rosa came, and I'm like, then we walked that whole thing together, basically. And then we just committed together. We said like, okay, keep it on this, and then we go.
But the first mud section where you got the separation, I think, was the one at 61 miles. Is that possible?
It was around 100 kilometers, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still, even in the US, I still do everything in kilometers.
Yeah. I just know it from the footage. So
because I was thinking like, okay, it's just 50K to the finish. It's just a 50-kilometer time trial. Try to get far as possible, kind of that idea.
So you were that, because that was 100. Okay, yeah, but that was my question. If you were like committed at this point in time, or if you thought probably even better if somebody catches me and we can ride together instead of I do it all alone. But without like the little mistake of missing the turn, you would have tried to stay away.
Yeah, I mean, I know how strong Rosa is, so I know like.
And you knew she had the aero bars.
I knew she had the aero bars, which is really hard. It's really annoying because it's mentally a really hard thing to think that, especially on the roads there, because we had sometimes like kilometers straight where it's just rolling, and if you're then in your aero position, you can save so much. So I was a bit like, okay, you know what, I kind of go, but also, you also think like, oh, I need to save something in case they catch me, that I can still go with them. Okay, then I made that mistake, which is my own fault, and then we got together, and then I was like, okay, now we commit together, and we just go for it, because I knew already in the start of the race that Rosa and we were basically the strongest, I think. And I knew like if Rosa gets away, I need to be there. And I think if Rosa and I get away together, we can really make a big gap on all the others.
Yeah, and I think that is what ended up happening. So when the two of you then were together after this mud section where the two of you walked through, I suppose, do you have a conversation? Do you talk about let's do this together, or are you just cooperating in silence?
First, we were swearing that we were like, "Fuck this mud, that we need to go through that again." But then we were like, "Okay, well, whatever, it's what it is." And then we got on the bike again, and then Rosa actually said like, "Okay, I think if we keep it on this kind of power, we could probably get away or stay away." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I agree." And I like to race with Rosa. She always wants to race. She never holds back. So she tries things. She always wants to do echelon. She always wants to push. So I was like, this is for me a really nice situation to finally get away with just her. So I was kind of like, actually enjoying it, being away with her. Yeah, and I think we shared the work really well. And but I had in my head like, if I try to attack, the chance that she rides it back with her aero bars is quite big. So maybe I need to stay waiting for the sprint, or And it's sometimes, especially it was so hot that day, and we were so like it was really tough, the weather conditions. I think like it's nice to share it a little bit with someone, even it's your competitor, but at least you're not there so by yourself. Yeah,
because I think like humidity there is well above 60%. No, I think.
Oh yeah. It was really extremely hot that day. Yeah.
And swampy, people described it as in these B road sections.
Yeah, especially on the B road sections where you had to get off the bike because then it hits you really hard. Some we could actually go through, like some we could still ride. Some parts we had to walk. Sometimes we passed some guys who were like walking and we could still riding. That's always a nice feeling. So it was a bit of a combination of everything. Yeah.
And then, like, once you get close to the finish, it's the two of you. You're prepared to sprint. How does it go then? Because you wrote something on your column on Pro Gravel Mag about elbows being involved as well. So, how did it go? What's the first person account?
Yeah, it's like her story against mine, I guess. But I mean, like I said, I really respect Rosa, and I think she's a great athlete, very talented. Especially she's quite new in it. She's young, so she has a great career ahead of her. The thing was that she was in front, and I stayed in her wheel. And at one point, I knew like before the last corner, it was kind of a cyclocross finish, basically. It was on grass. It went a little up. It went a little down. It was like a corner. It was like quite narrow. So at one point, she was in the middle. I wanted to overtake her on her right side. But at the same time, there was like a 60-miler man riding there as well. So it was basically me going between him and Rosa. And Rosa saw me coming, and she closed the door. Like, she didn't hold her line, and she took her elbows out, and she basically elbowed me in that guy. And I was like, like, you're tired, you just don't know so well what to do, and like, you don't want to crash anyone. So yeah, she won that battle. She was she had more pointy elbows than me, I guess. And that meant like she was the first one getting through that corner, and then I couldn't. Then she chose the right side, and I knew that actually because I did the recon, and I knew you need to stay right on that little downhill before the finish, because left was a lot of holes. So, but I went through these holes, and at one point I'm like, I'm almost crashing even here. But anyways, by that time I knew already I lost the sprint there. But I said something to her on the finish, and she said I said in the road, you cannot do these kind of things. I said you would be disqualified, and she said yeah, but this is gravel. And I'm like, okay, yeah, there's no rules in gravel. You're right there. You were you played it smart. Good for you. So yeah, I seem to be always second or third or whatever, but it's one day I will win. I just need to stay patient, I guess.
I mean, before we went online, we briefly talked about the Gravel Worlds Preview that I happened to release earlier today. And I think that is a race that could suit you very well. And if you could pick, like if 2 weeks ago I would have told you, look, you can pick one of the two races, Core4 or Gravel Worlds, to win, I suppose you would have picked Gravel Worlds. So
yeah, of course you would pick Gravel Worlds because it's a good prize pot, no, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's some prize money on the line there. But yeah, for money, people do weird things as well. So I know that I don't want to sprint with Rosa somehow.
So, but that is a good segue actually to a question that I wanted to ask you, namely, like if you go into a race with a big prize purse like Gravel Worlds, does it affect you? Like mentally, is that like very top of your mind? Do you try to push it to the side?
No, I don't really think about it. I never had any prize money so far in gravel, except now in Core4. That was my first prize check I actually got. And I think you know what? I'm not racing for like money or whatever. I race because I like to race. And it is cool that they do it. On the other hand, it's super nice that they offer it and that they have that on the finish line, but it's not like that I think this is going to be my main event because of the prize money. Absolutely not. I'm not even thinking about it. No, it's a nice bonus, but if not, then it's fine as well.
Which I think is a healthy mindset to have, and it helps because probably some of your competitors will have a different approach.
Well, some I think I do a nice block of 3 races in America, so I feel like I'm already here. I'm adjusted to everything, but I would not come just for one race here to doing this, because there's enough going on in Europe as well. The reason I'm here is because I did Core4 and I did Gravel Worlds, and they're both part of the Earth series, which is really, really good for me. And then Specialized allowed me to be in Latvia, so it made sense to combine all these races together and have a nice block of 3 races going on. But yeah, no, it's not because I saw the prize money that I thought I'm going to sign up. No.
Just to give the listeners some context, so Gravel Worlds has $100,000 prize purse, which is split evenly between men and women. It pays out 10 deep, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the first place finisher gets 17,500, or is it even above 20?
Yeah. No, it is 17 and 17,500. But then I don't know if you also looked at the number place if you get 10th, because that's $250. So it really gets down very quickly.
Yeah. I think the 10th place is in the few hundred USD. So it's really
$250.
Yeah.
The first top 5 is a lot. Yes, exactly.
I think fourth place still gets 5K, but now we do the money talk. If people, so it's all public. You can go on the Gravel Worlds website, and there in the section on the pro race, you see the exact payout structure. If that type of stuff is interesting to you, but. I mean, just my only comment on like what happened there in the finish line. We didn't get to see it. I just heard your account now. I have no clue. I think the one thing that in these races really should be solved, and there are solutions like at Unbound, age groupers in the finish, that is really a big problem. And then like elbows and not staying on your line. I mean, to an extent, no, it's true. Like, it's not road racing. These rules are not there. They can also not be supervised. So I think the problem is like once people get endangered by the behavior, and then having age groupers around, it's just so dangerous for everybody. It's dangerous for the guy, dangerous for YouTube pros. So.
Well, I felt so quite bad for this guy, because I was like, man, he's just probably super happy he finished his 60-mile race, and then suddenly two of this woman coming flying past by with the elbows out and whatever, and he's almost there, and he almost got pushed like in the barriers or whatever. But again, like it's also, of course, of course you want to win, and you're first of all disappointed with yourself that you didn't win and everything. But on the other hand, I mean, like, it is bike racing, and I know Rosa is like super competitive, and she will do everything as well, because she kind of attacked when I took a bottle from the feed station. So I went up to her and I'm like, hey, that's a cool move. And she's like, oh, I waited at least till it was in your bottle cage. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's cool. So, I actually have to laugh about it, and I like it. And I like how she is like so determined to it. So, after that as well, I was like, she was the strongest. She won this race. Fair enough. We move on. The only thing I was concerned about the guy. I was like, poor guy. I hope we didn't. I hope you got safely to the finish and actually had a really good time out there. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, at least he has a good story to tell. The one time I was riding my bike in Iowa and like almost got pushed over by these pro ladies.
This German and this Dutch lady. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So you already told me how the prize purse and so on doesn't affect you, but let's still talk a few moments about Gravel Worlds, which I think is one of the biggest and most iconic races in the US, with like, it's the 16th edition this year. It has like this pirate vibe. I don't know. I didn't see it that much on their website and marketing materials this year. I don't know if like on location they still dig into this. It's like this alternative thing. I think you get a sword as a trophy if you win it. So they do cool stuff. It's pirate coded and a bit alternative. And then of course they started live streaming the race last year. They do it again this year, which obviously that is super attractive to racers on the pro side, because the live stream is good for sponsors, for everybody in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like executed well, and like the cars that have the TV crews don't give unfair advantages to certain riders and so on. But everybody is learning. And so long story short, it is an important race. It also is like a plus 20% race in the Gravel Earth series. So it gets 120% of the points if you score Gravel Earth Series points for the listeners. And with that, a big one on the calendar.
Yeah.
How much did you know about the race before going there? And when did you make the decision to go there? Was it specialized
quite early
driven?
it was actually quite early in the year that I decided, when I knew I could do Leadville. I saw this once on the calendar, and I thought like, okay, then I add these as well. So I knew already, pretty early in the year. And also because I think I saw it last year, and this race didn't start differently, because I was last year doing Oregon Trail, And that was where I met Jason, who used to be started, I think, Gravel Worlds. He is a super cool dude, like has this really cool bike and everything. He was in Oregon Trail and we were talking about like female only races, like how much I missed that in the Oregon Trail last year and how important that is for me. And then he said like, well, come to Gravel Worlds because we guarantee there's no drafting allowed and it will be a female only race. And I said, well, it doesn't fit in my calendar because after Oregon, I need to go back to Europe. But I said, next year, I'm going to put it on my calendar because I want to be at races where they guarantee a female only race. So when the calendar came out and I saw the dates, I kind of put that on my calendar already. And then Specialized came with like, okay, I can do Leadville. So then it was like perfect combination. So that's actually one of the reasons that it was on my calendar, that I heard about it. And then I looked into the course and I'm like, yeah, this is actually what I like kind of fast, like short climbs, constantly on, off kind of. So yeah, that's why I have it on my calendar. Yeah.
I think it is like one of these very US coded gravel races. Like these roads seem to never stop. Like if you watch it on a map, you could never get a course like this on like your Strava or Komoot or right with the GPS in Europe, because you never have that many long straight roads. But the course map is really, really crazy. And then it's just basically all roads. I think one special thing, and they also do it in the pro race, if I'm not mistaken, like you need to respect all the stop signs. Otherwise, you can get DQ'd, is what they say. I don't know if they enforced this also in the pro race. Did they have any communication about this?
Well, maybe I need to. I don't think I haven't read the rules yet, so maybe I better do, because I'm always a rule follower, and I think some are really even more than me rule followers. So yeah, okay, that's an interesting one, because the America, they love stop signs, which is for me very frustrating. But okay. Yeah,
look into it maybe, because I heard that that is going to be enforced, and like it just brings me back to one scene that got a bit of a meme within our little gravel bubble, and you were part of it as well. And it was the feat at Core4 when Axel Dubois-Prévost fed Rosa and she stopped the car. Did you, like, in the moment, did you see this happening and unfolding? Because I think you were the first one going in there, and then she stopped the car with the finger wig, and then that was a dangerous road crossing, because there were no closed roads in Iowa. Apparently.
No, there were no closed roads, and there were also no volunteers on the road to actually stop the traffic or make it kind of safe. So that was actually what I was thinking later, like, oh, that's quite important to have, especially when you are racing for the win or whatever. You sometimes just completely forget about it, which is not a good thing. So it's also nice for us to know we need to be aware of it. But yeah, I saw that, and I saw this car coming, and I saw Axel walking on the road, and I'm like, we're gonna be fine. This is Axel. She's like this French lady. She just gets this done. So it really made me laugh, and I really appreciated that she did it. So I was like, oh man, that's so cool you did that. And so I had also a feed there. But I was the first one going. If she wouldn't have done it, I would have waited, and then we would have continued, because in the end of the day, you don't want to risk your life for a bike race, I would say. But
makes a lot of sense.
I was wondering how they would do it here, but if you say like it's all on our own responsibility, then it's going to be interesting to see who is stopping. Maybe the first stop sign, I will see what the Americans are doing.
That's a good way. Maybe ask around a bit. I also don't want to spread false information, but it's kind of something.
Well, it makes sense. It's rules here, so I guess I guess we have to follow the rules.
Yeah, and as it's televised, I mean that that is, in terms of enforcing rules, it's always good to have a TV crew around, because then you can see what is happening. Like the same goes for if people talk like, how do you enforce no drafting rules, not drafting women, not drafting men, and vice versa.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
becomes enforceable, at least for the top people. So I mean, I don't want you specifically I want you to specifically not give away all your race plan, but I think your plan involves getting a good result. And maybe you can tell me a bit more about if you have thought about how you think it's going to play out. Because last year, I think it was not too late that this group of three, it was Caro Migon, Lauren Stevens, and Emily Newsom, they broke away from the rest, and then essentially they stayed away for all the day. And it's just one of these hard attritional races. There are no points where you can easily create separation and so on. So this, do you think it's going to unfold similarly again? Because especially like in Unbound, we saw a trend that continued in my mind in this season. Like there is a early breakaway, a strong group that gets away and then never gets caught again because there is little collaboration. So when you were talking about like how you liked riding with Rosa and she's always pushing, I recall when I watched the Unbound live stream, I sometimes saw Rosa, sometimes you trying to make the others go and work, but there was very little cooperation in this group. And like, especially let's call it out, like people said ahead of time, oh, the PAR and the specialized teams, they will dominate this race. But there was like in your specialized team, it didn't look like anybody wanted to do the work for the others. And then nobody wanted to collaborate also across teams. And so you never stood a chance. And that is like, because we do not have at the time being domestiques in gravel and people whose job it is to work to bring back such a group. That seems to be a strategy that in 2025 gravel works quite well, to be away early.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like in the end, it's almost like an individual sport. So, like when someone breaks away, no one wants to do the work. But sometimes I'm like, well, if we all commit to it, it's way much easier to close it, and then you can go race again for the win. I had this discussion sometimes, and I said like, well, okay, but now if you're not doing anything, you're not going to win anyways. So you better commit to it, and then we can start again. That's why I like always with Rosa, because she always commits to it, and that's what happened in Unbound. Like we're trying to break away because we knew like some of them in the group, they're not doing anything, and it created that the group got smaller. But at least sometimes with a smaller group, it's easier to manage that everyone is doing their turns. But I think in Unbound, to reorganize, that took way, way, way too long, that the others were already gone and we never saw them back again. I think for this race, because the field is much stronger than I think it was last year. So there's so many more riders who can win. So it's again going to be interesting, like if someone is doing an early move, what's going to happen? Because sometimes you think like, well, I need to save because it's a long race. But on the other hand, if you give it too much space and no one's going to commit, you will never see that person back again. Yeah. But then again, I think it will be kind of an elimination race, like who is doing the, keeping up with the heat the best, or the best nutrition, or the best move, or whatever. But I think it will be very mellow in the beginning because everyone is kind of looking at each other. So maybe it's a good chance to go then, and then you see what's happening, or at least break it up, kind of. Yeah. Because if you have people with you who commit to the breakaway, then it's much easier, of course. Yeah. But if you have someone in there who is not willing to do anything, that gets annoying because then no one wants to work.
That's the point. I thought like if you have an early break and you're not in it, then what you almost would need is like not to try to have like a 15 women, or it's the same on the men's side essentially. Like they don't try to get 15 people working, but almost do a breakaway from and form a chase group that is committed. Yeah. And then there are additional problematics, right? Like there are some riders, I assume a Rosa would be in this group, definitely Sophia would be in that group. They are marked, so even if they would try to get in this group, then none of the other 10 lets this group get away. And I think these games that play out makes it challenging.
Yeah, but then I'm thinking like, yeah, and then you're not, you jump on the wheel, but then you're not gonna ride. But then you're still not racing for the win. So why do you not just commit to it? And it's so much easier to ride with 8 people or 10 people to close a gap than just with 2 of you or whatever. So it's always a bit like, but there's always some riders who are holding back, and they think they just have in their mind like, I need to save. But yeah, I think if you have that mindset, then you for sure will never win, because you're already afraid to get too tired. So imagine if you need to break away yourself.
And especially in gravel, as it is ridden these days.
Exactly. Yeah. And in the end, it is so. No, exactly. And I think, last week was not a really big field. So it's like, in the end, it's more like everyone for themselves. But that's what's happening in gravel a lot of time. In the end, if it's like, it's just, it's such an individual race. And especially when it breaks up, it's like, how many times we all riding just by ourselves instead of with others. And I think you see that probably more in the women's side than in the men's, because the men's, they have most of the time a bigger start field than us. But I think I think the gravel really changed. I mean, like, I cannot say much. It's only my second year. And last year by this time I was already injured and my season was finished. So I've done racing, but not that much. So I cannot say like how it was like 3 years ago or 4 years ago. But in my feeling, it was way more like individual. Like, I just race as hard as I can from start till finish. And if I'm with someone else, I'm with someone else. If not, I'm by myself. But I think now there's way more tactics, like in road cycling as well. But not everyone is not everyone knows, I guess, what to do in certain situations.
Yeah, and it's also much closer. I think the reason this worked a few years ago is just like there were a few super strong men and women who just were so clearly a few levels above everybody else. And then you had these races very often finish like one solo finisher with like 10 minutes.
20 minutes. And, exactly.
And these days are over because the level is just so high now in the top end, and there may be a few people like who are very dominant, but even like on the men's side, like Keegan, he dominated the Grand Prix because like he is known to be this almost alien like physiology at altitude, and now they have less altitude races, and I think winning Unbound, which he did before, but it's not as easy for him. And also like Sophia, of course, she's super strong, but I think she wins her races now also a lot with savvy race tactics, because she is also a very smart racer, but she no longer is like so many levels above everybody else, because it's just these fields are stacked. And I think this changed. But like one topic, because I know you also have sponsor obligations and I don't want to keep up too much of your time, but I am very curious about your thoughts on the like the philosophy, you could almost say, of Gravel Worlds in terms of remaining a self-supported race. And that, of course, you cannot bring your own team and crew, and you need to rely on the public aid station, the water oasis there. But it even goes down to like you couldn't. At this race, nobody would be allowed to domestique. That is very explicit in their rules. There is something you are entitled to draft, but if everybody has the idea that you are working specifically for another rider, everybody can get disqualified. So that is in the rules. And of course, you need to approach your nutrition game very differently. Do you like it? Do you dislike it?
I mean, the same happened in Iceland, but I think Iceland decided, because there are not so many roads there, so to access the aid stations, the cars had to be on the course, which kind of make it kind of dangerous, but also it can be that a car can help you, for example, in the race. But here I feel like the roads are so wide and open, and there's so many possibilities to get to certain aid stations. I don't know why they decide to not do it supported. You could at least say like there's 2 supported areas where you can get assistance from the side. Especially with like the heat here, I think it's almost kind of dangerous because you put your body already through so much. Because racing is really hard and it's a big it's really big on your body, obviously. And then also in the heat, it's really important to cool the body down. And I think like with not having the access of taking ice socks, for example, from your crew, it can result in that your body will overheat. And I know it's part of like the race, like who can handle that the best one. But I don't see what makes it. I don't see it like that. It makes it racing any better to not have a crew or support on the side of the road. I think they should always allow it, and mostly maybe about safety, for like that you don't get in this heat stroke or anything. But yeah, it is what it is. So it's for everyone the same. So it's like it's a different strategy, and I'm just I started yesterday planning with my kind of nutrition plan, like how I'm gonna approach to it. And today I tried some different things out on the bike, like bring an extra bead-in, for example, if that's gonna help. So yeah, it's a different approach. And
hydration pack.
Hydration pack for sure, yes. And then at least you have then 2 liters you can already bring with you. And I think at least one time you need to stop to refill. Then I think, if I need to refuel, for sure someone else needs to refuel, because it cannot be that they suddenly can bring 6 liters of water with them and me, for example, not. So I think it's just talking to each other and say like, okay, we commit to this aid station, we wait till everyone filled up, and then we continue, for example. But that's what I mean, like why can we not just have a crew in the races? But okay, anyways, they decided to do it this way.
I think it's a bit of like as I said, philosophy or ethos. It speaks to the grassroots origins of the race where that didn't exist. And I mean, an interesting point that Paul, when we talked about not these gravel worlds, but the UCI Gravel World Championships last year, where of course you had also a lot of people from very big WorldTour teams competing against these gravel privateers like Paul, and he said like especially because there were so many aid stations that he felt it was really a disadvantage that he had, because he could only get his crew to a few of these feeds and aid stations, and then. But then I think I don't know. At Unbound, for instance, did your team send the support, or did you have to find some local support? How did
So I had
Specialized, I suppose.
Specialized looked after the support. But I mean, like then at least you have like then just say like there's only 2 aid stations everyone can go to, and just say there's only one person who can be per rider who can be in there, and then like work with a bandage or something like that you at least. Not have too many people in there, because I get it. If it's like the neighbor who never been in a bike race suddenly shows up and does a feed for someone, it can create like dangerous situations. I get it, and it's not that you should say like, okay, you can feed wherever you want, but I think at least 1 or 2 assistance zones from your crew would be quite nice to have, and quite important also for safety, I would say.
Yeah, I mean the heat is definitely something to consider there. So there will not be any ice socks at the or they have it at the public ones. I don't know if you will get ice socks. That would be nice.
Well, I doubt it, but it would be really nice. But I don't think we're going to have that. And I know they say like there are enough stops on the way, but also like if you're in a situation where you're in a group and no one wants to stop, you're not going to stop by yourself because you lose too much time to chase back. But what can cause also that you maybe end up with not enough water, so you will be super dehydrated, which can do weird things to your body for sure. And like I said, athletes, they really good in pushing through. Like you saw me in Traka. I mean, which idiot is going to ride 140 Ks or 35 Ks with a broken elbow? But you do it because you have like you want to do it for the sponsors, for the people at home, for the people who support you. You don't want to do it for yourself. So you push always harder than you maybe sometimes should do. Yeah. So I'm just, okay, luckily the temperature goes down a little bit, but I'm a little bit afraid for like that heat kind of, that there's not, that we all will be super dehydrated. And that can be a dangerous situation, I would say, physically.
Yeah, it makes total sense to me. It definitely means like you need a dedicated strategy for this race and approach it differently. Like from how much do you pack, but maybe even like how you manage your effort in the heat, knowing that now you will have. So yeah, because once you're overheated, I mean, if you push too hard in the heat and you don't consider this, then this can also be a problem. So yeah, let's see. It's going to be an interesting race, and for us mere fans, it's going to be cool to watch it live, because they again, last year, I don't know if you watched the live stream, but they did a very good live stream last year.
Oh, cool. And I haven't seen it, but I sent the link already to I send it to my family so they can watch if they want. But yeah, at the end of the day, the rules are for everyone the same. So it's like, in the end, the best one will win.
Let's close on this. From Gravel Worlds in Nebraska to UCI Gravel Worlds in the Netherlands, your official UCI World Championship home race. How much are you looking forward to it?
Well, I haven't thought about it so much, actually. Last week, Laurens ten Dam messaged me and he sent me the course. He said like, okay, the course is out, this and this, and he's always super excited. So then I was like, okay, cool, that's nice to see, and maybe I can go there maybe a week beforehand and check out the course. But at the moment, I'm not really thinking about that. I'm also a little bit scared for it because, as I saw in previous World Championships, I never done it. I think it's too road dominant and not so much the gravel. Would be good to do like this as a gravel, the official UCI Gravel Worlds kind of thing in America or in Spain or whatever, to have that as a Gravel Worlds. But as I said, I haven't seen. I mean, I only saw the course on the computer and haven't seen it in real yet. So I think once I'm back in Europe after Finland, then the focus will be on Earth Final and Gravel Worlds of World Championship. So for now, I'm not thinking too much about it yet.
Did you hear from teammates of yours who are interested in doing it?
Yeah. There was like a poll going on in the groups app who's doing it, and I think we have 5 or 6 or something from the team. So that's quite nice.
It would be cool if they would then at least write for you as the designated gravel pro and not the other way around. Because like there was so much talk last year on the men's side, how like there was so much cross country help between all the Alpecin guys who rode for.
Well, again, yeah, it is again like a hard thing. Is it like, do you race for the sponsor or do you race for your country? Because of course, we would race for Specialized.
Yeah.
But I mean, like to win a World Championship for the brand is, I think, it's super important for the brand. So so why would someone who rides on Cervelo wants to help someone who rides on Specialized? So I think it's more like going to be a Specialized thing. So probably different countries work all together. Can work with the Italians, some of the Italians or whatever. Yeah.
That's how it went last year.
Let's see. Exactly. Let's see. Yeah.
I think it will be cool. Like in your own country, there are not so many world championships that you can do.
Yeah. No, and I never done a world championship, so it's super cool.
The vibe will be super different from these gravel races. So I've never actually done like a UCI race. But even just from something like the hills, it's a different vibe here in Europe compared to the States.
Oh yeah. It's very different. Yes, for sure. And I had done some UCI gravel races, and some I really liked, some I really didn't like. It is it's very different. You cannot really compare it, I guess. it would be nice to have some Europeans or like road cyclists to do some of these American races, for example, or like the Traka 200 or the 360 or whatever, just to experience how different it is.
Like one more question this time for real, the last one. But which of the UCI races did you really like, and would you recommend to do? And which also like have this unique vibe? Because one thing that I tend to say about these races, like most of them were created for the UCI World Series, some not. Like for instance, the Grellock. I don't know if you have done this. I think you did,
that's
you won
one
it
of my I won it last year. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. I would definitely
so that looks cool.
Everyone to go there. Yes.
Yeah, they have an expo. It's a weekend they do there, and it looks really vibey, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And authentic to what gravel is or used to be. And then some others don't look like it. But which other ones do you think have the potential to establish themselves as really cool gravel races?
Well, personally, I really liked Austria as well. Wörthersee, even that there's quite some road in it, but I feel like it's a really, really good and well organized. And it has also a nice atmosphere, a nice expo, like, you can hang out after. The one in Turnhout, I mean, is also a good atmosphere after the race, but the race itself, I was not such a fan of it. It was also, I think, because of the messed up with the men and us and blah, blah, blah. I think that's that are Grellock and Wörthersee are the ones I really, really liked. Yeah.
Cool.
But I would say come to Traka, do the one in Girona. Not UC Gravel, but another. That's a really nice one. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Well, on that note, thanks a lot for your time. Good luck for your race on Saturday.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Talk soon.
Thank you.